Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Sometimes bullying your coworker is not a good idea. It can cost you your job. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. How I cost a coworker her job. I work as a baker at a grocery store, and my department works closely with the deli. Now, when I say I'm a baker, I actually mean I'm the baker and have about twice as much to take care of in 9 hours than the woman who runs the deli. To clarify, neither of us are managers or even official team leaders, but she's been doing this for about 5 years, and while I've only been in this position for 6 months, I've more than doubled sales because quality and quantity have improved so much, making me the voice of authority in my area. We do, however, share a department manager and operate under 2 other high-tier managers. This weekend, we had health and safety inspections on her days off and new girls training / running the deli solo with me alone in the bakery. One of the store managers comes into bakery with the inspector following, do a thorough review of my bakery area, closed off from the rest of the store, so any problems in there are mine and mine alone, so I run a tight ship in there. And I'm actually commended for how clean and organized everything is. My portion of the visit is about 30 minutes, including the inspector asking to sample some new pastries, and of course you can have some. Would you like to take a few home to your family? Here's the ingredients list. Your wife can make them like this. You know, the whole kiss butt appeal to good nature because I've seen the deli and they're about to get reamed, and I don't want to be associated with them. I should mention that the lead deli worker, LDW, hates me. I have no issues on calling her out on her petty drama and stupid crap, but because I know what she's like, I take my issues directly to management. Well, 2 weeks ago, she came in on her day off and threatened to drag me out by my hair and kick the crap out of me, calling me derogatory names, etc., because I talked to management about her threatening to make false claims against me for not covering a shift for her, cross-trained for her department. I immediately told management they have video but no audio of the situation, and she's in serious trouble. My DM, who already hates her, basically tells her she gets one more chance to prove she's worth keeping. Ever since then, she's been nasty and turning coworkers against me because I don't get to interact with many people. I'm actually busy all day, unlike some people. So inspector leaves, and about an hour later, my DM, SM, and the inspector come in and start asking questions about the deli. Y'all, they found open snacks, empty personal containers, etc. in the deli kitchen, mixed in with deli food in containers. For anyone who works in a professional, retail, or industry kitchen, you know this is a huge no-no. Closed container of water kept outside the kitchen? Sure. I keep a bottle of water on a table outside my bakery. But in the kitchen, they found food containers, and uncapped bottles marked LDW. They're asking me questions. Our GM comes in and listens in, and I explain all the dirty, disgusting habits LDW has and mention that she's likely taught them to the trainees. Then I get into the customer service issues and rat on how nasty she is with people, the drama she causes between coworkers, and make a comment on how nice it must be to get paid for 3 hours you don't work because you're entitled to 6 30-minute smoke breaks throughout the day when you're older, right? Then I drop a comment about how pretty her hair always is, and it's no wonder she doesn't wear a hairnet in the deli. Y'all, you could have heard a pin drop with how silent it got. Even the inspector is looking off. Everyone but my DM leaves, and he asks me to clarify some facts for him, so I do. His lips pucker, his eyes narrow, and he starts cursing her in Spanish. He's furious that he was embarrassed during the inspection, and I apologize, but he corrects me and says it wasn't any issues with me, it was the state of the deli. We have a follow-up inspection coming up, and if the deli isn't in shape, it could get shut down. But LDW? She's likely to get fired this week for that stupid crap. And our next story. Enjoy being fired and losing equity in the business? I work for a very large financial company. Like the tech industry, occasionally we will want to pursue market opportunities in areas we are not necessarily experts in, and it's much easier and faster to buy, either whole or controlling interest, in a specialized investment company or advisor in order to acquire their talent, resources, and industry connections, commonly called an acqui-hire. Several years ago, we acquired a controlling interest in one such company. As an incentive to keep the talent on board and minimize disruptions to their business, instead of buying them outright, we bought about 2/3 of the interest and the management bought the remainder. They then hung shares of that remainder over the heads of certain key managers as future bonuses to be triggered by performance and remaining with the company for specific amounts of time beyond the acquisition. The CIO, Chief Investment Officer of the company, was one such employee. We shall call him A-hole CIO. This guy was a piece of work. He prided himself in having attended some university, I forget which, and felt that anyone without a certain title or higher was beneath him. He was used to being a big fish at his company, but didn't quite get that guys like him and this new corporate parent were a dime a dozen. I worked on the acquisition of his company and interacted with him fairly regularly, and while he was super nice with my boss, he never wasted an opportunity to be condescending to me, even though I was doing the bulk of the work. His favorite move was to refuse to answer my calls or emails and instead instruct his secretary to reply on his behalf after I'd reached out to him multiple times about the same thing. Luckily, his secretary was awesome, and IMHO probably good enough to have done his job. Anyhow, as a result of the acquisition, the company now had to report a host of different activities to the parent company on a fairly regular basis. One of these things was the percentage ownership of certain investments in a wide range of funds by a host of different entities. The thing to know is that as you invested in these funds, your entity acquired an equity stake that varied somewhat from reporting period to reporting period based on the performance of the fund and how much you were invested in it at the time. Unless the size of your investment changed substantially, the percentage variation in the ownership stake varied very little from one period to another. Still, those fluctuations had to be reported regardless of size. I tracked these for a host of similar companies owned by the parent company and had developed a reporting system that all of them used, which ensured detailed and accurate reporting. Everything that is except for this company, which at the express direction of their a-hole CIO, refused. Now, I tried talking sense to the a-hole CIO, his analysts, and to his secretary, and in every case, he shut me down. Instead of supplying the information in the manner requested, he sent me an automatic performance summary generated by different software and told me to figure out the numbers myself because his staff didn't have time to change their methods to accommodate me. Of course, I went to my bosses with this, and their advice that since this was a new company and we really wanted to build good relations with them while we were integrating them into our business, to just play along and try to play nice with this guy. In other words, make the best of it. I did exactly what they ordered me to do. Every single reporting period for a year, I took their crappy report, fleshed out their numbers as best as possible, and reported them, fully knowing that they were inaccurate. Every single time I interacted with their staff, I made sure to tell them this and ask them to please use the system every other investment subsidiary was using. Every single time, they came back with orders from the a-hole CIO to refuse. Around that time, the a-hole CIO decided to grace us with his presence and flies in to do a meet and greet with our team. My boss and I even had a one-on-one meeting with him. A-hole CIO comes into the room, greets my boss, then proceeds to ignore that I'm standing in front of him with my hand out waiting to shake his, even looked me in the eye while proceeding to ignore me in front of my boss. I waved off his behavior as time passed. About 6 months later, the parent company decides to audit their business, and what do you think they find? Yep, they find that all their equity and performance reports are off, sometimes way off. Of course, the president of the sub gets a call from my boss's boss, the parent company's CIO, and gets an earful. They in turn pull in the a-hole CIO and give him an earful about their reports. He immediately proceeds to throw me under the bus. The next day, I get called into my boss's office for a conference call with the president of the subsidiary, the a-hole CIO, and the corporate CIO. Right off the bat, a-hole CIO starts demeaning me and demanding to know how I could possibly have effed up their reporting. The guy lays into me and demands that I be fired for the F-up. By now, I'm tired of this guy's bullcrap, and I'm done playing nice with him, so I ask to be excused, get my laptop, and return. I then proceed to forward and quote email after email evidencing my request for compliance and his express refusal to do so. for a year and effing half. The corporate CIO thanked me and asked me to step out of the meeting. A couple days later, my boss pulls me aside to tell me that going forward, the subsidiary will be reporting all figures as per my instruction, and the a-hole CIO has gotten the butt-chewing of a lifetime by his and my bosses. However, while he agreed to comply going forward, he demanded that I no longer be a part of the reporting process. My boss told me not to worry about it. That was one less thing for me to worry about, and that the a-hole CIO was just being vindictive because I'd embarrassed him in front of his bosses. Fair enough. I passed the process on to someone else and enjoyed the reduced stress. I still had to interact with the company's analysts on direct investments, but I no longer had to interact with the a-hole CIO, which was fine with me. Fast forward 2 months, and I find out that a-hole CIO has been fired, and that it was his handling of my report that caused the corporate CIO to order a review of this guy's investments and reporting at every level. They found discrepancies everywhere, sometimes serious ones. It seems he'd been fudging numbers in order to report better performance than he was actually generating because he was not one of the initial equity holders, but was one of those managers who'd been offered equity stakes in the company based on performance and longevity. His refusal to play ball with my little report ended up shining a light on his activities, which ultimately cost him his job and a very lucrative equity stake in the business, which was probably worth 7 figures. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.